What's up, Tailgaters? You're in the booth with Tailgate Nate today, and the road to predict all 136 FBS level college football teams now takes us to Atlanta, Georgia. We're going to be talking about the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets, one of the big time sleepers out of the ACC. Can they bring a lot of people's hopes to fruition and make an ACC title game? My name is Nate Pope, otherwise known as Tailgate Nate. Thank you so much for clicking on this video and helping to support the channel. If you want to support it even further, then please do me a solid, hit that subscribe button, and while you're at it, you might as well ring the bell, because turning on notifications will ensure that you don't miss an upload, especially not one of your favorite team. I am a sports media graduate delving into the professional world of the industry, and if you want to see all the cool stuff I get to do while still keeping up to date this very YouTube channel, well, you can give me a follow on social media. It's at TailgateNate29 on Twitter or X, whatever your preference for the platform, and Instagram. You can even email me, tailgatenate29@gmail.com. I want to thank you all so much for supporting and interacting with me or the channel, however you may be doing so. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I give you the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets out of the ACC with your head man, Brent Key, and a really good job is what he has done with this Georgia Tech program. Of course, the upset win against Florida State last year. We all know how that turned out, but then you fast forward, that was at the beginning of the year. Fast forward to the end of the year, you almost beat Georgia in an 8 overtime thriller. Well, they could beat Georgia this season. Some people are picking them to, and Georgia Tech is poised to make quite the amount of noise here in the ACC. The pesky Yellow Jackets, they might build a nest towards the top of the conference. Hey, how do we do preview predictions here on the channel? Well, we are going to go through a roster preview, in which case the offense will be over here to the left and the defense will be over here to the right. At the end of the video, we'll go through a Georgia Tech football schedule, the Georgia Tech football schedule. I'll give it a game-by-game preview and prediction, and this video overall will tell you what I think about the Yellow Jackets in 2025. Before we get started, though, some numbers right below me. Returning production numbers are according to ESPN. They do factor in transfer portal additions up to a certain percentage, but it spits out those numbers, give you an idea of some of the talent here that is on this team. And then right down below you, recruiting and transfer portal ranks are according to 24/7 Sports for the class of 2025. All that said and done and out of the way, bam, let's get over here and start talking about the offense. Buster Faulkner leads the group as an offensive coordinator yet again, and Haynes King will be returning for Georgia Tech to quarterback another season of Yellow Jacket football. Now, last season for Haynes King, 2,114 yards, 14 touchdowns to only 2 interceptions on 73% completion percentage. There is still a lot of room for growth for Haynes King. Particularly, you can get that passing number to absolutely skyrocket. That passing number can get a whole lot better for this team in this program. However, Haynes King does phenomenal things. Again, that touchdown to interception ratio, even though it's not a plethora of touchdowns, it's still a fantastic ratio. That's a 7-to-1. He can increase that to 28-4. Oh, this Georgia Tech team might absolutely take off, and his run ability is great. 589 yards and 11 touchdowns for Haynes King last season on the ground. I mean, you go back to what he did at Georgia Tech in 2023, where he had 2,841 yards, 27 touchdowns, and 16 picks. He fixed the interception numbers. Now it's about working on getting the yardage and touchdown numbers. They go hand in hand. You get more yards, you're probably going to end up getting more touchdowns. You get more touchdowns, you're probably going to end up getting more yards. If he can reach that back up to the 2023 level while keeping the completion percentage as well as keeping those interception numbers down, oh my goodness. Georgia Tech's offense, watch out. It's going to be really scary if all that happens for Haynes King and he continues to develop as a passer, because look at some of the talent that is around him. With start in the running back room, Jamal Haynes is back, and I can't tell you how big of a return this is for Georgia Tech. I think he's one of the premier running backs in the entire country. He is that good. 944 yards and 9 touchdowns for Jamal Haynes last season and 169 carries. He probably could get around 200 this year. I would give him 200 if I was his head coach. It's because I think that highly of him. I think he's really good, but it doesn't stop there. They have a Penn transfer coming in, Ivy League kid, and Malachi Hosley that is going to be coming into this team, put up some wicked numbers with the Penn Quakers, and will be the backup to Jamal Haynes. Now, again, I said I would give Jamal Haynes 200 touches. I probably still would, but then again, Malachi Hosley back there definitely can pick up Malachi Hosley, however you say the last name. Again, I apologize for any mispronunciations. He is going to be a really vital part to this running back room as well. Lead wideout in Eric Singleton is now in the SEC. He is transferred out of the program and has gone over with the Auburn Tigers to lead in what's probably going to be a really good wide receiver group over there with Auburn. And he was huge for the Georgia Tech offense last season. 754 yards and 3 touchdowns on 56 catches. There was a guy that was targeted more than him, though. It was Malik Rutherford, 702 yards and 3 touchdowns for him last season. And there are some good depth pieces that are going to be leaving this team. It is going to be overall a pretty younger room. Isaiah Cannon is back. He's a true sophomore. Zion Taylor's a redshirt sophomore. Bailey Stockton is a redshirt sophomore. They did add a pair of transfers, though, that are, well, pretty darn good, especially that of Eric Rivers from Florida International last season. 1,172 yards and 12 touchdowns, averaged nearly 19 yards per catch. He is going to be an absolute stud here with this team. Sorry. Frog in my throat. He's going to be an absolute stud with this team. I think he is an amazing pickup for this Georgia Tech team. Is he as nearly Raleigh as talented as Eric Singleton? We're definitely going to find out. But is his production going to be pretty similar? Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, take a look at the nearly 1,200 yard season he had last year. Yeah, he's going to be a really good piece for this Georgia Tech team. They brought in another transfer in Dean Patterson, who is also coming over from Florida International, who was again another really good piece. 685 yards and 7 touchdowns with the Panthers there last season. So bringing in those two guys from Florida International are just absolutely huge. Now, there are a couple other transfers coming in, but they won't play as big a roles as Eric Rivers and Dean Patterson. And I got some really massive portal pickups out of the wide receiver room for Georgia Tech this season. One tight end that caught a pass last year is going to be coming back. So it will be Brett Seether that is going to end up leading this room that just sees newness everywhere. This is a tight end room that is going to be very, very overhauled. Is it still going to be good? Probably. I would lean on probably the side of the wide receivers are going to have a lot more production in the pass game than that of the tight ends this season, at least compared to last year. Obviously, the wide receivers are going to get the bulk of the catches, but compared to last year, I think the wide receivers are going to get some more production. Tight ends maybe take a step back, but they should still play a vital part as Brent Key really likes to utilize them. 3 offensive linemen starting roles are going to need to be filled. However, Keelan Rutledge is one of the best offensive linemen in the conference, if not the entire country. He's coming back. There are some new faces that are going to be coming in here to help anchor this offensive line, particularly a transfer that's, according to ourlads.com, going to slot on into the right tackle position, and Malachi Carney. 2 freshmen and Josh Petty and Kevin P.A. are both coming in as well. So you get those 2 guys coming in here. Again, Georgia Tech could have a really solid offensive line room this upcoming season. Offensive line last season did only allow 9 sacks. Again, give a lot of credit to Haynes King being able to get outside of the pocket and run. Let's put up some similar numbers Yellow Jacket fans are hoping here in 2025. Defensive coordinator, as we switch on over to the other side of the screen, is Blake Gideon. And this is the defense that I feel like can focus on being a lot more disruptive than they were last year. They only had 18 sacks and they only generated 11 takeaways. I don't really have a lot of questions about the offense over here. I think as long as Haynes King continues to develop as a passer, we know Jamal Haynes pairing with the Penn transfer is going to be huge. Even though Eric Singleton is gone, I think the wide receiver room is really, really good and pretty darn deep. Tight ends will still be involved. Offensive line's got some good pieces and some really good experience. It's the defense for me. And it's not that they're even bad at, run defense or at pass defense. There are some rooms for improvement in every facet, sure, but especially in this. Get to the quarterback, force takeaways, generate some extra possessions for yourself. If that can happen with this Georgia Tech team, I really think we're going to see the Yellow Jackets take a step in the right direction, and a massive one at that. Now, 3 key pieces are off of this defensive line room. However, Jordan Vandenberg is going to be coming back, and he already was one of the bigger pieces on the defensive line last season. 23 tackles, did have 1 sack last season. Now, again, led by Romello Height, those 3 key pieces off the defensive front are massive losses. They really are huge. So around Jordan Vandenberg, there are going to be a ton of high impact transfers again throughout the entirety of the front 7. Now, when you take a look at true defensive linemen here, AJ Hoffler is going to be coming in. I believe, yes, he's coming over from Clemson. Matthew Alexander is coming over here, 35 tackles, 4 tackles for loss with UCF last season. You dive on into, I believe they call it the rush position, combination defensive lineman, linebacker, sort of that edge rusher type. Ronald Triplett is over from UTSA, where he had 4 sacks a season ago. You're also going to be getting in Braden Manley, who's coming over from Mercer. Really good defensive lineman over there with the Bears. And then when you take it into the linebacking unit, yes, some key pieces are gone. The most linebacker out of any linebacker, all the memes and things picturing around, it's because he looks like it with the flak jacket and everything. Kyle Efford is going to be coming back to this team, and that is just a ridiculously good return. Led the team in tackles with 64, had 3 sacks, a pass defended last year, and is one of the leaders on the defensive side of the ball. Getting him back is huge. Again, the aforementioned portal pieces. I mentioned the 2 edge rushing types. Melvin Jordan is going to be transferring in from Oregon State, where he had 45 tackles a season ago. EJ Lightsey, Taj Butler are in the money position there for you. Even a guy out of Tennessee Tech by the name of Kamen Spalding can provide some really good value to this front 7. So with Kyle Efford back, with some really good transfers up front to pair with Jordan Vandenberg, I think the front 7 can still be pretty solid. Again, though, can you get pieces and can you get the pass rush to the quarterback? Because a lot of these guys, even the transfers they brought in, did not generate crazy sack numbers wherever they went. So again, that's going to be a big part of this defense. And then forcing some takeaways, I think, especially with the interceptions, some really solid players are going to be leaving this defensive backfield. However, you do get your top 3 defensive back tacklers back. So again, some more depth pieces and whatnot are going to be leaving, but your top 3 defensive backs in terms of tackles are all coming back, led by Amari Harvey at the cornerback position, 62 tackles for him. Powell Lee will be returning. That's Clayton Powell Lee. My apologies. Omar Daniels is also going to be coming back. So led by those 3 guys, your safety duo, and then your right side corner, Rodney Shelley's coming back as a true senior. You get a transfer, my apologies, into play nickelback over from Georgia State, 53 tackles, 2 interceptions for him last season. That's Jaron Gilmore. It's a secondary that can provide some problems too. And the hero in Ireland, Aiden Burr, returns the kick. You're going to get a new punter in from the transfer portal, and we got to show them some love because kickers are people too. So overall, you take a look at this Georgia Tech team. Look, the offense, as long as Haynes King can develop and maybe combine some of his numbers over the previous 2 seasons with this program, bam, I think the offense is going to hit. The defense, get more disruptive. Disrupt the game in a lot more ways than you already did with being really physical up front. If you can generate some takeaways and generate a lot more pressure to opposing quarterbacks, if you can double your sack total from last season, which I know is a big ask, but you get 36 sacks, guys, I would feel really good about Georgia Tech not only being an ACC sleeper, but a college football playoff sleeper. Will they be able to do that anyway, though, with this schedule? Well, take a look for yourself because here is the Georgia Tech 2025 football schedule. But before we dive on into this, let's go right down below me and talk about some odds courtesy of FanDuel. No, this is not me telling you to go put your money on these numbers. It just simply provides some context for how good the odds makers think Georgia Tech is going to be this upcoming season. As far as that margin to win the conference, plus 1,300, I believe that sits around 6th or 7th. I'll get the official ranking of it here momentarily. Plus 16,000 odds to win the national championship. Odds makers think a lot has to go pretty darn well for Georgia Tech if they want to go make the, or I should say, if they want to go win the college football playoff, if they want to go win the national championship. 7.5 overall is that win total. So let us start diving on in to the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets and start by talking about this game against Colorado, a game that I honestly think is going to be really, really, really interesting to watch. And I'll talk about why here in a second. Georgia Tech, by the way, fifth best odds to win the ACC. They are behind SMU, Louisville, Miami, and Clemson. So they really are the team that if you're going to pick anyone outside of the big names to win, then Georgia Tech would be your team. But this game against Colorado is really interesting for quite a lot of reasons. But to me, it's a little bit more interesting when you talk about the Colorado side because Colorado is losing some studs, right? Shadur Sanders, son of head coach Dion, is now with the Cleveland Browns. Travis Hunter is now in Jacksonville with the Jags. Those were their two most impactful players last year, and you can't argue that. Not at all. And this is a Colorado team that saw tremendous great success. Colorado's got some pieces to be able to fill in the gaps for those guys, right? Caden Salter is coming back at quarterback. Julian Lewis is a freshman that's going to sit back in the quarterback room, but he very well could play at some points this season. You take a look at the wide receiver room, a lot of really good transfers. The defense is seeing more continuity return with some portal pieces entering where need be. The Dallin Hayden is back to play running back. We'll see if Colorado can get a run game this season. We will see if Colorado's offensive line can improve this season. And that's where, to me, look, I think Colorado can win this game. I think they got a lot of talent that can give Georgia Tech some problems. But to me, where I have to pick Georgia Tech to win this game is the line of scrimmage battle, which is the most important thing in a football game. Ask me, ask a bunch of other people. Some people might say differently. That's fine. They're entitled to their opinion. To me, I think the line of scrimmage battle is one of, if not the most important thing in a football game. And I think Georgia Tech is going to win it. I think their defensive front can wreak havoc on this Colorado offensive front that still is going to be trying to improve from the past couple of seasons where it just has not been that great. And then you flip it around, talk about this Colorado defensive front. I think Georgia Tech's offensive line can hold their own. So that's why I got the Yellow Jackets winning that one. And they should have no trouble against Gardner Webb either. Here is the big one. And to be quite honest with all of you, if this Georgia Tech team wants to beat Clemson, I think they have to do what I said defensively, right? So first off, their offense is going to have to try to match the physicality of Clemson, particularly their offensive line. They're going to be playing some really big bodies. If you're a guy out there or gal, if you're a guy or gal out there that thinks that Clemson's defensive intensity has gone away and it's not going to come back, you are mistaken, because Tom Allen coming back this season, or coming in this season to be your defensive coordinator. Discipline, intensity, physicality are the three biggest things to him. Clemson's defense is going to be a wagon this season, and I just don't know that Georgia Tech is going to be able to match that physicality. Now, I think if Georgia Tech wants to win this game, they got a good shot to do it. They are at home. It's a massive game early on in the season. You can catch Clemson napping, absolutely. I just don't think it's going to happen. I think Clemson is a really, really talented team. Cade Klubnik and Garrett Riley, that marriage, I think is going to be outstanding. In year three, Clemson's got one of the best wide receiver rooms in the country. They could have one of the best running back duos in the entire country, especially if Gideon Davidson, the true freshman, is anything like his high school stat line says he is, because 5,000 yards and 80 touchdowns across 2 years. Wow. And then you take a look at the Clemson defense, and like I just said, the intensity and the level of preparation and the physicality, it's all going to come back if you're someone out there that felt like Clemson lost that. Clemson is back. I'm ready to say I think Clemson's going to be back this season, and I just don't know that Georgia Tech will be able to handle the overall physicality. So the Tech's got some pieces to make this one close. Back to my point, though. I think in order to win this one, they've got to start getting some really disruptive pieces defensively. They have to make Cade Klubnik uncomfortable. They might have to force a turnover or two. And right now in the early going, I just don't necessarily foresee it happening to the degree that they need to be able to win that game. Georgia Tech should be able to bounce back nicely. They'll beat Temple, and they will beat Wake Forest. Wake Forest is one of those teams that, maybe has a chance to be sneaky competitive. I just don't see it. I think Georgia Tech's a lot more talented, a team they definitely can be more physical than, and they will win that one as well. Now, Virginia Tech and Duke. These two games are pretty interesting to me, but I think Georgia Tech wins both of them. The Virginia Tech is an interesting game to me because of who they have at quarterback. Kyron Drones needs to to take that next step forward. But I think overall, it's a Virginia Tech team with Kyron Drones at quarterback that feels pretty good about where they're at. I think the defense has got a ton of good pieces. They brought in a ton of really talented transfers. I also think they brought in a lot of really good offensive transfers. Terrion Stewart from Bowling Green, that running back, I think is going to be exceptional for this team. I think they got a lot of really good wide receiver pieces. I think Virginia Tech can be dangerous. Not as dangerous as Georgia Tech, though. I think Georgia Tech's got a little bit more skill in just about every position on the field. I do think the Yellow Jackets will win that one. And then I do think they went on the road against the Duke Blue Devils as well. But this is a game I would be very careful about if you are a Georgia Tech fan. This is a Duke team that I think is going to be really, really good. Darian Mensah is coming in at quarterback, balled out during his time with the Tulane Green Wave. Jarquez Hunter, or sorry, not Jarquez Hunter. Sorry, I don't know why that name popped in my mind. Similar enough first name, Jaquez Moore. Apologies to Duke fans and Auburn fans everywhere. Jaquez Moore is going to be coming back from injury for this Duke team, and you got some pretty good wide receiver transfers. Defense returns a ton of experience. If there's a letdown road game, it could be this one or another one coming up. We'll get there in just a little bit, but I got to tell you how they're going to beat Syracuse. It's because Syracuse replaces just about everybody. They really do. Wide receivers, quarterbacks, running backs, defensive linemen, linebackers, safeties, corners. Syracuse is going to be replacing a ton of talent. And while I still like Ferran Brown, and I think he, has some solid pieces there to be able to drive the team into a bowl game this year, they're not going to beat Georgia Tech. I just don't foresee it happening, and Georgia Tech is going to be able to win that game. Here is the letdown road game. I think there's going to be a game this season. This is just my opinion. I think there's going to be a game this season. Duke is probably the more likely one. But the way I have the schedules working out and the records that I wanted teams at and so on and so forth, NC State to me, I think is going to be that letdown game. Again, do I think Duke is more likely? Yes, absolutely. But I think there's going to be a game on the road that Boston College is going to lose this season. It very well could even be that week 1 game against Colorado, but I still think NC State has got a lot of pretty darn solid pieces. Now, defensively, though, they've got to get a whole lot better. However, again, upsets happen. Things happen in college football, and I think NC State's got enough pieces to where it can all come together at one point this season and upset somebody. And Georgia Tech still trying to look to take that next step. Could get a bad performance from Haynes King. Again, they still could not be able to generate a consistent enough pass rush or get the turnovers that they're looking for, etc., etc. I think, again, whether it's NC State, Duke, Colorado, I think one of those 3 road games is going to trip up Georgia Tech. I just so have it being this one against NC State. It will not be the game against Boston College, however. I do think they're going to be one of the worst teams in the ACC. Tommy Castellanos is gone, and Boston College, just a lot of different new pieces to work with. Bill O'Brien, good head coach. We'll see what he does, but I just don't see Boston College being that great this season. Pitt, however, I see being another deeper ACC sleeper. You get another year of Eli Holstein, and Desmond Reed is a dynamic force at the running back position. They can provide Georgia Tech trouble, but I think Georgia Tech has got a little bit more physical pieces, and I do think they can be able to outmuscle and even outwork Pitt when they have to. Now this Georgia game is coming up. It's a Friday game on a short week. And look, you're getting the Georgia Bulldogs at home after you almost beat them last season. One could argue Georgia Tech is going to get better this upcoming season. I think in a lot of ways, Georgia will too. Now, Georgia, I think, still is going to have one letdown game this year. Gunnar Stockton's got to answer some questions for me at quarterback, but they're still going to be really, really physical. And this is a rivalry that they have controlled. Kind of like the Ohio State-Michigan situation right now. Until you can win the game, I'm not going to pick you to win it. And Georgia is still going to be a really talented team this year. If they were expected to take a big drop-off, or if Kirby Smart took a head coaching job somewhere else, might feel a little bit differently, but I still got you losing to Georgia. And again, 9-3. I think Clemson and Georgia are losses, and then you look at Colorado, Duke, NC State. One of those 3 road games to me, I think you're going to lose. The way I had it working out, it was at NC State, but a team that if they can get everything figured out and they can rally the troops and they just see some significant defensive disruptive improvement from last season, they could easily be in the ACC championship game. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Remember to play hard but tailgate harder. See all you guys in the next video. Goodbye.